I think I'd dispute ad hominem, but I think you could understand a certain annoyance. It's a little bit as though a teacher of classics, I'm talking about education now, in schools and universities. Imagine that a teacher of Latin had to, or a teacher of Roman history had to contend with people coming along and saying, the Romans never existed, the Latin language is a Victorian invention designed to, you know...
And I think that's a perfect example of the hostility that those who favor evolution have toward those who don't buy into the idea, who say, show us the evidence, and yet those in favor of evolution can't show us the evidence that we're looking for.
I'm sorry, but we can show you the evidence. All you need to do is read an elementary textbook of biology. It's all there.
Okay, so this dumb bitch obviously cannot understand that Dawkins' example is to prove how frustrating it is for educators when trying to educate and dealing with total morons that have ridiculous theories and will not accept evidence. But this bitch takes it as, she's like, that's a perfect example of how you or evolutionists are trying to silence us and da 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 da. That's why you came here to interview me, is you're trying to silence me. That's why you came here with a fucking camera crew to interview me on my position, because you were trying to silence me. And you say you got evidence? No evidence. There's no evidence. I've been to the museum. They didn't have the real dinosaurs there. So, take that.
Well, that's interesting you should bring out the textbooks on biology. We still have textbooks today.
Yeah, I know you're going to talk about peppered moths and you're going to talk about Haeckel's embryos.
No. In fact, what I was going to talk about is what they claim to be the evolution of a fetus in the womb, based on hand drawings, which have been proven to be false, and yet they continue to be published in scientific textbooks.
I love that Dawkins, ahead of time, already knows she's going to be bringing up Haeckel's embryos, which is yet another case of science disproving bad science. You understand? Science improves upon itself. Always. That's the whole point of science, is to make it better. The aim is perfection. It is not happy with, I don't know, I got an old book, and that does the trick for me. Lightning is when God fucking is angry, or you know, rain is when God is crying. That's a good enough explanation for me. That's not how science works, you dumbass. Science improves upon science. But my favorite part is that she doesn't even know that it's Haeckel's embryos. He says, you're going to talk about Haeckel's embryos. And she's like, no. I was going to talk about some old drawings of fetuses that have been proven wrong. Yeah, that's called Haeckel's embryos, you dumb fuck.
Haeckel's embryos are just one little thing. It's a Victorian thing. Plenty of people made mistakes in
and yet continues to be published in today's textbooks.
Well, no longer, actually. But I don't think it's really fair, is it, to pick on particular Victorian mistakes. It is a Victorian mistake.
Oh, I mean, but it was carried over into the 20th century.
Yes, and that was a mistake, and that's been corrected. But look at the massive evidence that there is today. I can't help feeling that there's some sort of hidden agenda. Maybe I was wrong to say it was a thing about tell people that they're descended from monkeys and they'll behave like monkeys. Is it something else? I mean, is there some other worry that you have?
If you're looking for a so-called agenda, I'll tell you what it is. We believe that human beings should be treated with respect and dignity.
Yes.
And the reason we believe
so do
that,
I, of course.
The reason we believe that is because we can see that God created each one of us.
I don't mean to seem like I'm interrupting her, but she switches points so often that I kind of have to cut her off like this. She just basically admitted that the only reason that she knows to treat other human beings with decency and respect is because we were all created by God. If we weren't all created by God, well, fuck your decency and fuck your respect. Just go to fucking hell.
And what we find is that philosophies that are built on evolution oftentimes lead to horrific abuses against human beings.
First of all, I don't know what philosophies which are built upon evolution you're talking about, but I would also like to point out that the alternative, which is creation, has spawned many religions, which often result in the horrendous mistreatment of human beings. How weird that you didn't mention that. Your double standard is just so huge that you can't even see the other side.
And you can see why, because it's drawn on a foundation that says human beings are just material, and they should be judged according to their utilitarian use. What thing can they provide for society?
Okay.
We don't believe that.
Yes, okay.
We believe that each human being, whether they can supply something to society or not, if they are disabled, if they are young, that they should be treated with the same amount of respect as you and I should be treated.
Yes, I mean, I accept all that, and I agree with that. I mean, I also think humans should be treated with respect. But what we have here is an agenda. It's that you want humans to be treated with respect, and therefore, if the scientific facts go against what your perception is, then you're going to distort the scientific facts. Now, why don't you instead accept the scientific facts and say, but we still want to treat humans with respect. Let's look at evolution, and let's see that we can indeed treat humans with
because
respect
what I go back
within
to,
the evolution framework.
What I go back to is...
Now here's where it starts getting a little bit fun. We've been doing the interview long enough where she is going to now continuously, when asked a question by Dawkins, say, let me go back to, or I'm going to go back to. And what she does is she goes back to the same argument that she's been making over and over and over, not actually addressing any of his questions, just going back to the same few points that she has left. And when Dawkins tries to refute her, oh my God, just get ready for your face palms.
The evolutionists are still lacking the science to back it up. But instead what happens is science that doesn't bolster the case for evolution gets censored out, such as there is no evidence of evolution from going from one species to another species.
I'm sorry, bitch, but science just does not work that way. Science does not work in the way that you want it to. You want bad science to be good science because bad science is the only kind of science that would support your fucking creationism bullshit. Good science cannot, of clear conscience, agree with you, even if it was just to make you feel better. Even if it was the morally right thing to do, because science doesn't care about morality. Science cares about facts. Fucking get it through your goddamn stupid little head.
If evolution had occurred, then surely, whether it's going from birds to mammals or even beyond that, surely there'd be at least one evidence.
There's a massive amount of evidence. I'm sorry, but you people keep repeating that like a kind of mantra because you just listen to each other. I mean, if only you would just open your eyes and look at the evidence.
Show it to me. Show me the bones. Show me the carcass.
Show me the carcass? Are you fucking kidding me? This is Jerry Maguire does creationism. Show me the carcass. This is fucking ridiculous. Okay, fine. We've got bones. Do you have Adam's bones? How about Eve's? Do you have any angel bones? Do you have any bones that prove your fucking point whatsoever? Do you have anything, even a remotely, somewhat researched scientific theory for against evolution? It doesn't even have to be creation, just against evolution. You can't even fucking do it. All you can do is nitpick it to some stupid bullshit and then be willfully ignorant to this. Fuck you for having me waste my time and Dawkins' time.
Show me the evidence of the in-between stage from one species to another.
Every time a fossil is found which is in between one species and another, you guys say, now we've got two gaps where previously there was only one. I mean, almost every fossil you find is intermediate with something and something else.
If that were the case, the Smithsonian Natural History Museum would be filled with these examples, but instead they're not.
It is. When we talk about intermediates between species, we're of course not talking about intermediates between modern species. We're not talking about intermediates between dogs and cats. We're talking about intermediates between ancestral dogs and slightly more recent ancestral dogs. Now, in the case of humans, since Darwin's time, there's now enormous amount of evidence about intermediates in human fossils. And we've got various species of Australopithecus, for example, and these are, I mean, some Australopithecus are intermediate between others and ourselves. Then you've got Homo habilis, Homo erectus. These are intermediate between Australopithecus, which was an older species, and Homo sapiens, which is a younger species. I mean, why don't you see those as intermediates?
Evolutionists bear the burden of providing the evidence for those of us who are not scientists to see it. And if the evolutionists had the actual evidence, then it would be displayed in museums, not just in illustrations.
You gotta admire the amount of ignorance this bitch has. She requires so much fucking evidence. Like, she needs to be there in order to slightly even start thinking about macroevolution. Microevolution, fine. Creationists said that was okay, so we don't care about that. But from species to species, oh my god. And so she requires more than just, like, what, fossils and drawings, and she wants the actual carcass in the fucking museum. But at the same time, this is the same bitch that's going to take the Bible word for word. Not even an illustration in the bitch. Just word for word, old ass text. Bam. Word of God. I don't care what you say from now on. That to you is enough. But then all of science and all of the evidence, all you're going to do is sit there and continue to be like, but where's the evidence? Well, here it is. But where's the evidence? It's in the museum. But where's the evidence? See these bones here? Those are evidence. But where's the evidence? You see why someone might get frustrated with your fucking dumb ass?
So what I go back to, though, I think there is a bit of there could be a hidden agenda on the part of those in favor of Darwin. In when Darwin's own words, in which he claimed that there was a difference among the races. And that was then used to promote racism.
Yeah, that's Victorian. Everybody in Victorian
times
was
racist. That is the foundation, though. Those who are in favor of evolution often refer back to Darwin.
You think maybe that's because Darwin was the original guy that came up with the theory of evolution? I mean, could it be because he wrote The Origin of Species? Do you think? Do you not refer constantly back to your God when you're doing your creationist bullshit? Because that's what this all leads to. All of this denial of science is really just so you can say, so the Bible's true. When you know, hopefully, that you are being disingenuous about this shit at the very least, if not ignorant at the most. You haven't answered a single fucking question straight. Now you're going to Darwin is a racist. Well, how about your fucking God is a murdering sack of shit?
And he is quite a hero of the evolutionist movement.
He is a hero, but not with respect to racism. Now, I just told you about Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens. By the way, archaic Homo sapiens and then modern Homo sapiens. That's a beautiful series of intermediates.
You're still lacking the material evidence.
The material evidence is there. Go to the museum and look at it.
So what I go back to again is... who
the fuck cares? What you go back to is that when forced to actually realize that there is evidence, you just gotta go back to something. What I gotta go back to is Darwin is racist. What I gotta go back to is Darwin, evolution is mean. Natural selection is mean. And we want to be loving. All you gotta do is look at nature. Look at dogs and cats, how they get along. Isn't it obvious that God exists? Let me go back to some dirt.
So what I go back to again is let's look at what evolution and Darwinism has spawned. Let's look at the philosophies that have come out of it that have been so horrific to our world. So we need to look at the philosophies behind and that have grown out of evolution.
All right, now all you've got to do is explain to me how the philosophies that may have come from evolution disproved evolution in any fucking way. That's all you got to do. Explain that to me real quick. So what you're saying is God cannot exist because there are philosophies, certain people that believed in a God, and you don't agree with them. Therefore, God doesn't exist, right? Muslims are willing to fly planes into buildings. You don't agree with that. They believed in a God. You believe in a God. No God.
And what we find are the societies that are the most loving and caring, the societies that are the most well-functioning, are the ones that have a great respect for human beings, for others, because they recognize that each human being was created individually and is distinct from one another. Interesting enough, regarding that, you mentioned how the DNA is common among various species. But among human beings, each one of us has distinct DNA. In fact, that's the one That's one thing that's quite a way that, sorry, back up.
Bitch, you need to go way back.
That's one thing that scientists will use to determine who has committed a crime, is basing it on the DNA evidence. So even DNA helps to show that each human being was created individually.
Oh, don't you even try and use science to justify your denial of science. It gets even better in part 3. Coctopus out.